Oh my gosh, that was funny. There should be a little bit of a gap for images. I kind of like that we have like a little bit of a gap, so when I put a person's face there,
True.
that helps out.
True.
Oh, I get to put Joan Collins back. For next week, I got to talk about next week's previews too.
Oh yeah. Still didn't see it, but it's okay. I'll play along.
Hi everyone, I'm Rafael Rivera.
I'm Nick Snow.
And we're back to talk about American Horror Story Apocalypse, Episode 6. Return to Murder House.
Second half of the season.
I'm loving this so far. Even though part of me is a little frustrated because I'm like, let's just get on with it because we're still in the past. You know?
Right, we've paused kind of the current timeline. But I think for good cause this time. I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it too. I like all this backstory, but what I like about this particular episode for you fans out there, this is like an epilogue with a lot of closure for that first season of Murder House. So let's go ahead and start off with the purchase of the home. We have Behold Shibley and Madison. What did she say? That they are the worst interpretation of Heidi Klum and Seal.
Yes. Yeah.
That was excellent.
That was such a perfect line from Madison.
So I like the way they're approached. They're like, let's just buy the property. We have all rights to it. And we just hone in. I mean, I think when I saw that, the more and more I think that they are, my original theory with Cordelia, that she's part of the cooperative, using money from Coco's dad.
Right. To
have all this sudden, all of these funds that probably just started funding researches and maybe preparations for of what's to come. So I wouldn't put it past Cordelia. Remember, she's a good poker player, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that house came at a little bit of a discount considering there were how many? 30-something, 37?
36 murders.
Yeah.
So
that probably takes your price down a little bit.
They gagged. They're like, yeah, we know about the deaths. You're like, all 36 of them? They're like, wait, what? What?
They're like,
I can't wait to make babies. Oh, wait, what? She loves farm kitchens. So we'll just burn some sage. Yeah. That was brilliant.
Yeah, but I agree. You definitely would need to have a pretty good chunk of change to buy that house. So that's a theory that probably still holds up at this point.
Pretty much so, but I like when she shows up, she's like, what else? She's pretty much like, what a shithole. I think this particular episode you really start to fall in love with Madison's character again. You know, you see her bitchy side, what an asshole she could be, but then you see that she's got a big heart. And
for sure.
Yeah, let's continue. So we get in the house, and they decide to do a special spell that could make them visible to the ghosts, and all the ghosts come out and visible to them. And I think Behold Shibley cracked me up because he made a comment like, let's just go clubbing. And she was like, look, trust me, I would have my Coke dealer with a speed dial and a heartbeat, but we have a job to do here. Girl after my own heart.
Yeah, she definitely kept him on track. And so, is that when we see the magical red ball kind of roll through the screen?
Where did I see that? That was so Stephen King. Like it reminded me of something from like a movie It or something like that. Sure. Like, you know, the clown tempting the kid, and sure enough, this big deformed creature comes out. And for those of you that haven't watched Murder House, shame on you.
What are you doing watching this if you haven't watched Murder House?
I mean, really.
Your priorities, they need some work.
So we secretly banished Kevin. He hasn't seen this video yet. But we secretly shamed him. He hasn't watched this.
It's for his own good. I'm going to stick to that story.
So it's Constance's son that had to be kept in the attic, and which she had him killed in the first season, which was very sad. But he just, Behold went to use magic on him to remove him tackling Madison, and his hand comes out to obstruct it. And it was, is it Billy Dean?
Billy Dean, an actual living human in that house.
So she said. You never know with Murder House.
I mean, with the number of characters Sarah Paulson is playing, who can really keep up? But
yes.
Yeah, so that was... Okay, so I know Sarah Paulson directed the episode, obviously.
And she did a brilliant job.
She did. And who's going to turn down the opportunity to have Sarah Paulson and Jessica Lange on the screen together?
True.
You can't.
True.
But it's a little heavy-handed, in my opinion. Did we really need her? Did she really... I mean, she kind of acted as a little bit of a narrator to carry the story forward a little bit from one ghost to the next, but like, but not
Just
really.
very. I don't think she was that necessary. I think they all could have played their role out, which is what they did. Each of them had a story to tell about Langdon, which is the reason why they were Chablis and Madison were there, and it could have unfolded without her character there.
Certainly.
Absolutely, she was not necessary. But I guess probably for those that needed a closure to find out where they are now, maybe that's the reason why they shoved her in there. But
I mean, much like we talked about with the Stevie Nicks scene being a little bit like, yeah, like, it's Stevie Nicks. You're not going to turn down the opportunity to have her on screen.
Oh,
so.
I still didn't tell you the story about Stevie Nicks.
Oh my god.
Speaking of cocaine dealers.
Keeping that off camera.
Well,
off camera.
I will. So Billie Dean does an introduction and she explains who she is, and I think Madison insulted her and called her like a fucked up or a cheap ass Madame Cleo or something like that. I was like, the insults just fly in
When
this
is
episode.
she not insulting someone?
I felt like I needed to keep notes. I should have kept notes on all the good singers they
Oh my
had in this
God.
one.
You could for her.
Absolutely, it was good. So they have a little bit of an exchange and a dialogue, and then there's Constance in all her glory at the top of the staircase,
Yes.
making an entrance and actually referring to what such language is being used. And Madison, she goes, "Who's down there?" And Madison pretty much goes, "Oh, we're the new owners." And she was like, "This is my fucking house." Cigarette. So that was a brilliant interlude, and there's an introduction to Constance, and she has her Crown Royal and her cigarettes, and which to Madison's disgust, which I'm not a big Crown Royal fan. Sorry, but I'm not. Yeah, there's a little bit of introduction there, and they also get introduced to Moira. And I love the little cat fight between Moira and Constance, even in the afterlife.
Oh my god. To
she
think
does
that's
the
been
little-
going on like every single day for however many years. Like, it's
I
just
just-
hilarious to me.
Oh, it was funny. She just like wiped the dust, and did you see that? That is the color of my disappointment. Discouragement.
But it explains why the house was in a little bit of disarray, because the maid is a little bit below par.
She
so.
probably does not give 2 Fs, I'm
I mean,
sure.
why would you?
She's
Why
stuck
would
there
you?
with those guys. She doesn't want to be there. She's miserable. So that's probably she has 2 Fs. She should just get on with it. So, Constance strikes a deal with Madison and behold Chablis that they got rid of Moira. She'll tell them the story that they're looking for about Langdon, because she didn't want to talk about it. She kind of shut up a little bit. And Constance is a good poker player too. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't show her unsettled. Probably she's probably unsettled about hearing Langdon's name in such a long time.
Yeah.
And so they strike the deal, and this is where Madison starts to show her character. She approaches Moira and says, "Hey, look, this is what's going on, and we're going to give you a choice," which I thought was pretty admirable.
Right, so they go into the backyard and start digging up the bones.
By
And
the
they're
famous
encountering-
gazebo.
Yeah, they're encountering bones of, as we mentioned, lots of people, because lots of people have been murdered.
Wrong side.
So eventually they get Moira's bones. And yeah, you're thinking like, well, they're not going to go approach Moira, they don't care about her.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, you get that next scene in the kitchen where they're like, here's the deal we've been pitched, but we, have this bag for you, please look inside. And all her bones are in there, and that really kind of was a soft moment for everyone. I think kind of just lightened the mood a little bit.
It did. It terrified me, because I thought at that moment, like, what would it be like for me if I saw my own bones in the bag? Like, I don't know how I would react. I'd probably freak out a little bit. What I look like, I'm like, oh my god, I should have had that root canal. I don't know. So I should have gotten those retainers. I should have worn my retainers as a kid. But yeah, it was pretty cool that they did that, and they reburied her bones with her grandmother's bones, right?
Right. So this was a scene that was a bit confusing to me. It seemed to drag out a little bit more than I thought we needed, but I don't know if we're gonna get more to this story, or if it was just kind of, as we talked about before we started filming this, just kind of Madison especially had been in her own personal hell for, you know, however long that was. So she kind of knows what it is to have kind of an unfinished afterlife and just be kind of trapped where you don't want to be. So I think she, like you said, we kind of got a lot of depth to her character.
Yes.
And so she kind of, you know, as best she could, gave closure to someone because she knows what it felt like to not have closure.
And she gave it to more than one person. There's more opportunities where she had. It was almost like she became a vigilante, yes.
For sure. So the scene in the cemetery was a little bit long for me, and I was waiting for like something kind of sinister to happen with a mom or something. I don't know. Like it kind of had that like darkness was kind of hanging over it, but then they just kind of walk off into, you know.
I think I get where you're coming from. I really think it was a chance to display the good. There was a lot of dark and a lot of dark. And there was an opportunity for some good, for some light to come through, to have some resolution, to have some forgiveness, and I think that's what that was there. She asked for forgiveness, and the mother was like, oh, I wanted to kiss you.
She was like,
glad you pulled the plug. Thanks for taking out the feeding tube.
Exactly.
I wanted to die. But it was pretty cool. It did go a little long. Like it didn't need to be so drawn out, but I understand the content of that particular part of the story. And I think maybe Sarah Paulson probably put a lot of trust into the cameraman because it was an interesting shot that they were walking off and across this bridge. Maybe it was like a metaphor. Maybe they were moving on forward. And not going to be stuck around being haunting the cemetery.
Yeah.
So I think that's what that was all about. So what happened after that? So after they get the resolution with Maura, then they start talking to Dr. Ben Harmon. They see a little episode with Tate, right? Because he's in the middle of a session with Tate, and he gets off and storms away because they're in shock that they could see each other. Right. Because that's the whole thing about the ghosts in Murder House. If they don't want to be seen, they don't have to appear, and they were caught off guard that they were walked in on. So Tate
walked in on is an interesting phrase.
Oh yeah.
For the tearjerker.
Can you believe that? What a horrible hell to have to masturbate and then cry. And they said,
but I like how you pointed out, like the crying is the only part I want to take away.
They're like, we can fix that if you talk about what we're looking for. They were trying to negotiate, and he goes, I can just take out the crying part. She called him Dilf. Let's call him Dilf. I'm like, well, that's a little too close to home. Calm down there, Matt. So, but yeah, they strike a deal with a doctor, and Dr. Harmon, and I like the part that he continues the story where Constance finishes off. So
she goes to have tea with her poor daughter who had her eyes drilled out or whatever happened to her. Unclear. But,
so before we tackle that, let's talk about Constance's content about Langdon. That's right. So she was happy that they got rid of Moira, and Constance was like, shh.
She's been waiting for the silence for quite some time.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So she tells her story about Langdon. You know, that it pretty much took off like it picked up right where we left off in season 1, where Connie passed away at childbirth. There were twins. They did reaffirm that it was 2 boys. They were made sure, because I think there was so many Mallory theories out there that it was possibly Mallory's the twin. I was one of the people that speculated whether or not Mallory was a twin to Langdon because of her equal power, like Kylo Ren and Rey. It was just too much of a coincidence.
It definitely could have worked. It could have worked. Yeah.
And so apparently the baby did die, and then Constance went ahead and took Langdon and raised him, and then she started telling the stories of her slow descent into horror, raising him.
Real dark, real quick.
She was just, you know what? Her character reminded me of A Streetcar Named Desire, Vivian Leigh, that Southern belle, and this delusion that she of old grandeur that was never there.
Right.
You know,
she's
she's
like,
a
oh,
sad
I've been given
character.
another chance at motherhood.
Yeah,
Great. How
well,
wonderful. This
yes.
is gonna be perfect.
And she puts him in that broken mirrored room that she tortured
I mean,
Adelaide with. Who puts a baby in a closet with broken mirrors? That
how
was
did
so
she
creepy.
expect any good to happen when
Such
that
a-
was the start for the poor child?
Mother of the year.
Mother
Mother of the year.
I still maintain her heart was in the right place. The execution was not necessarily her strong suit, but
Yeah.
she meant well.
Yeah. So she starts describing that, that he started pulling off wings off flies and dismembering rodents, and they were gifts.
They were.
Like Griff said, like, well, did you make a brooch out of them? Like, okay.
Didn't make a brooch, but she did create her rose garden of death.
Yeah, that was surreal. That was surreal. That to the point where, she'll every time she found a dead animal, she would bury it in the backyard and put a rose bush. That's a lot of work.
You know, it started off as a great idea. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, we'll just have tidy up the backyard a little bit, have a nice little garden going.
I think she was just
There
OCD.
were a lot of rose bushes by the end of that.
That bitch was OCD. Each rose was like perfectly perpendicular to each other rose. They were just row after row and row, spaced out perfectly. And the entire yard was covered. She probably got frustrated that she couldn't bury any more rose bushes. That's probably her original frustration. Like, you got to go. Langdon, you gotta go.
Yes, that sent her into her descent. The rose bushes. The lack of space for more rose bushes. That's what caused her to snap.
So she talks about, that eventually he moves on to bigger things, and he had his first murder, which was the nanny, right? The babysitter,
Right.
which happened in the first season, at the end, the
Right.
very last episode of the end of the first season, where you see the nanny laying on the floor that many people suspected it might have been Mead. No. It was just a random nanny that just happened to be a victim.
Which she's Constance somehow was able to pass off that the babysitter committed suicide in such a gruesome manner.
She's got a good poker face.
She does.
She's got a good poker
Listen,
face.
she's the most iconic character of the entire franchise
Oh,
by
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
far. We're definitely not going to question anything that Constance puts out there.
By the way, I think she got an Emmy for that or a Golden Globe for that performance.
She better have.
I think she did. I think she got an Emmy for that performance in that first season. So then she started to get a little freaked out. She wakes up one morning and finds him in bed, and she's like, it's someone else in his bed, but it was as if he was in a hurry to age, and he aged 10 years. He was like that was pretty freaky.
I mean, listen, anytime we do a little call out to the movie Big, I'm all for it.
Oh, I forgot.
That's all I thought about.
Did you? Because his foot was hanging over the
Exactly.
bed. I get that. That was good.
Great job, Ryan Murphy.
I get
Loved
that.
the reference.
I missed that
Even
one.
if you didn't mean it, that's how I took it, and I'm a fan.
That was good. I never even thought about that. But, she had this habit of correcting his grammar, and, she was dead asleep one night and found herself being choked by Langdon, and I think that's what really set the fear of God.
Which
in
that
her.
is so annoying when people correct your grammar. Like,
It is. It's condescending.
I wanted
It
to
is.
strangle a few people because
Yes.
of that. So
My mother still does that to me, but in Spanish. And I'm like, just shut up. Just shut up and drive.
So hey, I can't hold it too much against him, but that coupled with all the murders that have happened, and I see why she was concerned.
What cracked me up is that she said, I tried to use divine intervention. That didn't go so well.
That
It
was not...
a dead priest in his bedroom while he's playing a video game. Attempted exorcism. It just did not quite work.
Yeah, I think she knew she was up against it at that point.
And that's when she decided to go over next door to Murder House and commit suicide, and that's because I think she knew what she was getting into there. She knew there would be people there that she's familiar with, her children.
Right, so obviously she knows that there is some kind of afterlife, spirits, what have you, on Earth with us. So if she were to pass away somewhere else, she doesn't know what she's going to be stuck with.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes over to Murder House, like you said, she's with her kids. She knows the other spirits there. Yeah.
She can navigate through those waters.
Right.
Kept Moira in check.
Right.
So she was fine. It was sad. She had her Crown Royal, her pills, and Connie Francis to keep her company in her transition to the afterlife. But it was such a sad scene.
It was.
It felt many a Saturday night for me.
A little too familiar.
A little too familiar. So that happens, and Langdon is upset, and he's crying when he finds her dead, and that's when Ben Harmon, Dr. Harmon, comes in and starts to connect with.
Which I
with
thought
Langdon.
that was pretty interesting that he was crying over it. It kind of, I think, showed. Well, we got some other references to this, but it showed that he wasn't necessarily born completely evil.
No, he's. I'm gonna theorize now. Just throw it out there. I think he was just a vessel for the evil of the house to escape that ground, the earth, and venture out there, just like it used Tate in the rubber man suit to impregnate Connie, to start the ball rolling in this process. It's a very cunning house. So that's my theory. I still see that there's still good in Langdon. Anyone that sheds a tear over someone else, that's a sign of compassion and love. So as he did for Miss Mead.
True.
So I think there's some hope for Langdon to repent, or to, there's still some good in him. So I think there's something there worth keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, he's pretty far gone, but I think deep down we're seeing that something is there. So
he's struggling.
Maybe we'll see.
He's struggling. So Ben, I just love this. This is where the story of Langdon passes off. The baton passes over from Connie to Dr. Ben, and he wants to connect with him. He sees that he's an interesting person. He told him that, I think you're good. You're not a monster. That's what he said. I'm a monster. And he decided to be a companion and father him, mentor him, basically. And I thought that was pretty cool. Play chess with him, play catch, and he kind of marveled at his capabilities, which I thought was interesting. And then until just things took for a turn for worse, and he discovered the Rubberman suit, and Tate pitched a fit. He was like, I just wanted to connect with you or spend time with you. And he was like, I am not your father. You did not come out of these balls, or something like that. Adam Peters, he's just, I'm sure he ad-libbed that probably.
I'm sure. He definitely has that authority at this point, for sure.
But once he got a hold of that rubber suit, he has like a taste of that evil, and next thing you know, some innocent people move into the house. Lesbian couple.
It was. They seem so excited.
A lot of lesbian action going on.
Not steampunk lesbian this time.
No, this was more like U-Haul flannel wearing lesbians.
It was.
Suburban.
They probably moved down from like Portland or something. They were so excited.
They were so excited to get this house. Next thing you know, they're barely in there 5 minutes, and
oh man! And not only do they get killed, they get burned up. I mean, he
incinerated their ghosts, their spirits.
And that kind of took me back to when he rescued Misty Day from her personal hell. He just kind of took it to the next level. It's like, you didn't need to do that. We didn't need to go through the teacher and rip his guts out.
Right.
So he just, I think he loses control sometimes.
Yes.
I think that's where the fear, so even going back to like the warlocks and how they were fearful of him, I think that's kind of where that comes in.
But I think this part of the storyline is necessary, because you see how powerful he was all along.
Right.
Because when he enters at the end of episode 1 and then all of episode 2 with Venable and the interviewing, he's just cool, calm, and collected. You don't see these outbursts. He's in much more control of his power, which also can be just as frightening. But now we see the level of power, the meteor, basically, which is what Sarah Paulson wanted him to do. The 7 Wonders was to kind of test out his powers, but now we get to see the magnitude of his powers.
They've been there all along.
Along. So yeah, he kills those 2 innocent people. He even pushed Dr. Harmon back. Yeah, and I can look and kind of held him in place while he was doing his deed. But okay, another little theory. What I've noticed. At one moment, when he decides to incinerate them, you guys rewind, go back. They did a little close-up angle shot of his crotch, and there wasn't much of a bump there.
Oh, God.
I don't think these things happen by chance. But it goes back to my theory that, is he really a man? Because he mentioned something to Venable when he questioned his manhood. He goes, oh, because I'm a man.
Right.
And he gestured at his crotch because she had a disgust for men. you know.
Did
And
happen, yeah.
I think, I don't know, but maybe I'm over processing it.
No, I mean, we know that would be kind of a little Easter egg to find that Ryan Murphy would throw in. I could see it.
And
I could see it.
Connie did mention something about that's no ordinary man or no ordinary boy. So I maybe wonder if that was another Easter egg about his sexuality. And remember, this wasn't the first time we had this confusion of sexuality, or bits, as I like to call them, because remember in Freak Show, Angela Bassett thought she had a penis, but it was just a giant. She said, I ain't got no ding-a-ling. So just to throw it out there, so.
I mean, it would be, so what would be kind of the payoff of that necessarily? Why would that be the case?
I don't think that is just necessary. I think that's just.
Would that allow him to be the Supreme? If, is that where that's going, maybe?
And he's not really a man.
Right. If technically.
He's a hermaphrodite.
Right. But does that be kind of where that would maybe be a little bit of a loophole, maybe?
It could be. Now you're really making me think.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. So in comes the satanic trio. And we get to see Mead, a real Mead in full action. They just show up at his doorstep like Avon. They're just like, ding dong. They literally went ding dong. And the satanic
Our Antichrist GPS led us here. So
the posse is here to christen you, and it was crazy. That was a dark scene. It kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies because it really goes back to Rosemary's Baby, The Omen.
The Omen, for sure.
And they introduced themselves to Michael, and just their adoration of him was just a little creepy.
They could not contain themselves.
They were like,
and he was just
the
like,
son of Satan, I can pee myself. And so Mead goes out and fetches some bait. They need a victim to perform the dark mass, as they call it, or the black mass. And just the fact that they call it a black mass even taps my altar boy spine. It was kind of creepy, but they pick up a victim in the rain, and
poor helpless thing.
Oh my gosh! But Miss Mead, I swear, Kathy Bates, she's just amazing to watch on the screen, and she just goes along with the whole thing. And this poor innocent hitchhiker in the rain just notices that there's an upside down cross on the mirror, and she's like, "Yeah, it's like if you're driving off here." He's like,
she knew.
Well, why would I do that? She went straight for that. I was like,
I know. It zoomed in on the upside down cross, and then you could tell she was like, "This is not going to end well for me."
No, this is not a Saturday. This isn't an after-school special anymore. So, I just, it makes me wonder: was Mead really a secret agent then? You know, those memories that were downloaded where she had that Kill Bill action happening.
Right.
It makes me wonder if that was really did happen.
Yeah.
You know, those memories, because she had some quick reflexes. The way she slashed Cheyenne's Achilles heels and went for his jugular. The way
ruthless. Completely ruthless.
Yeah. Man, they should have sent her out to the Middle East and would have resolved that shit a long time ago.
I'm not even gonna touch that one. Quite
I
honestly.
probably won't. I'm gonna get another backlash, I'm sure. No disrespect to our ladies and men that serve our country. So anyways, so they start this ceremony and they strap that poor girl down, and you mentioned we have a rehash of Pepper back on the scene.
Yes.
Love me Pepper.
Yeah, she channels her Omen in the best way she can. It's all for you, Michael. So great. So great.
But her enthusiasm gave me Bellatrix Lestrange, you know,
yes, for sure.
like Helena Bonham Carter without all that crazy hair, and she was just like, filthy mudblood! Just that exuberance. I don't know why I'm drawn to people like that on the screen, but I guess I just, maybe it's birds of a feather, who knows.
It's gotta be.
So one thing that was interesting, that they torture this poor girl, and this satanic pope guy, he goes in and kind of feels around while she's alive and screaming and pulls out her heart.
Man.
And feeds it to...
Did she still have to be alive for that? That was tough. That was
a
tough.
little... You know, it's after 10 o'clock. FX does not get flying
They
F.
do not.
They
do
just
not.
like, we're going to put it out there, and we're not going to compromise our artistic integrity.
No.
So they feed him the heart, and we talked about this earlier candidly, that this was like a throwback to Roanoke when Scathage gave the butcher the beating heart, and that kind of gave her a resurgence of power. And I think that was exactly what that ceremony was supposed to do, was really kind of open the portal and the pathway for Michael Langdon to start his path to being the Antichrist.
By the shadow that appeared on the wall, I would say it worked. I'm sure you're going to add it in right here when you edit this video
Yes,
later.
I will.
I'm pumped for that.
I even think they played the music from The Omen.
They may have.
I think they do, which is O Fortuna, which is a famous classical piece.
It would have been quite fitting for the way that scene played out.
I believe they did play O Fortuna, which is a classic piece from A Night on Bald Mountain, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's something else. I'm getting my classical stuff. But anyways, it is a direct reference to The Omen. And I think for people of my generation, which The Omen scared the bejesus out of me, it was just hit a little too close for home. So Connie is watching this during the whole time. By the way, we skipped that part. The baton of the conversation goes from the doctor to Connie, and she continues the story when she shows up to start telling this story about how the three showed up and performed the death mass. She just came out in this like stupor and just started quoting about the beast came down and descended with the 7 heads and all this stuff. And she went right into the book of Revelation, and I was like, whoa. They wanted to make this point blank and clear, no question about it. Langdon is the Antichrist in this episode, basically.
Right. So I think we got a lot of things confirmed that we probably like 80-85% knew already. But just the way it played out and the way we got confirmation, it still made it exciting. You were on the edge of your seat the entire time.
It was like, no, it can't be. Oh shit, here we go, like a roller coaster. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the narrators that we got: Constance, Ben Harmon, Vivian Harmon. I mean, it's
Vivian, I keep calling her Connie. I apologize. I don't know why I kept calling Connie, Constance, Vivian.
Connie Britton.
Connie Britton.
You're getting her real name.
Yes, that's what it is.
Back to our first video where we really struggled.
We did.
Look how much better we are.
We're getting there. So she is just in horror watching the whole thing, and she saw the shadow of what the very first Dial a Daddy phone call to Satan that happened there, and it was pretty disturbing, and she decided to take matters into her own hand, and silly woman, she thought she was going to take him out with a butcher knife.
You just saw that play out. You think you can just simply go up there with a butcher knife while he's sleeping?
A pampered chef one at that.
Yeah, you're a smart lady.
Yeah.
You knew that was not going to work in your favor.
And then right before she went to go try to attempt to kill him, he's awake. He knows what's happening. But we get a close-up shot. She notices this little number 666 on the back of his ear that looked like a growth, like a wart. Very creepy, and that was, again, affirmation. You can't deny it. This is it. He's got the stamp, you know. And it almost looked like a branding, like it was burned on him, like the way the skin scars from a branding. So yeah, bad murder attempt. He kills her right away, or no, he sets her on fire.
Right. And
then Tate
comes in and saves her. Yeah, because he was just gonna incinerate her, make her ashes. But like we talked about, Tate is not inherently evil, and we see that in this scene here. Because why would he care?
Yeah,
if he was evil, why would he care?
That's exactly
right. So he comes in and he saves her, which plays a little bit down the road with Violet at the end of the episode, but we'll get there. So yeah, I thought that was a nice little... We really just got a big... This episode was so brilliant because it was such a big wrap-up for Murder House.
Right.
So many just loose ends are tied up. While also advancing the story of the current season.
Absolutely.
Like, it was just, the storytelling was just brilliant.
Yeah, it was. It was really good. writers did a great job on this one, and the direction of Sarah Paulson and another amazing, and the cast. I mean, this, I think, everyone out on social media were just saying how brilliant this episode is, and I have to agree. I have to agree. This was a brilliant episode. I think you probably didn't get the big wow bam factor, like kind of like what happened with Mallory pushing back on Langdon to show the reveal of power. There wasn't any great reveals, but it was just a beautiful rhythm throughout this whole thing of little aha moments, or oh, that was nice, and it was. Or, oh fuck, we're so fucked.
Few of those too. Few of those for sure. Yeah.
But it was great, and so yeah, that's the part where Connie pretty much when she's finished telling that story, the baby's screaming, I think, and she got to go take care of the baby that died at birth, the twin.
Yep.
So which I thought was very sad. So I guess Madison and Behold Chablis have their answers that they were looking for. And they decided to take off.
All their greatest fears were confirmed.
Yeah. And then this is where Madison really steps up to the plate and knocks it out of the park. And she approaches Violet, and what did she tell her? She said something about that. I can't remember. She said, "You're pretty."
I'm sure that was it.
Go get your man.
Right. Yeah. So she kind of shows him. Like we mentioned, that Tate saved her mom from being incinerated into ashes,
She
and just that
convinces her that he's not that bad.
Right.
He really does.
Because they kind of have a little bit of a dialogue about Tate. And
Yes.
She's like, "Oh, he's done like so many horrible
Yes.
things. Like,
She
I
couldn't
just
forgive
can't."
him. She couldn't forgive him. Again, this was, I think, another good about forgiveness and the good side of people. And
She was like, "Well, I can tell you I've done a few things that I'm not exactly proud of."
she's like, "Here, have some Coke."
Yeah. I mean, it could have been. It could have been.
Scathitch did that in Roanoke too, by the way.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That was a little. Maybe Gaga's coming back. I don't know. Or maybe it just shows the lineage, how connected they are, which is to Scathitch.
Yeah.
That there's still old magic that's being used, that's been
Right.
passed on all the way through Salem, all the way up to now. So.
Yeah.
But those references. Definitely were noted. Let's put it that way. They were put there for a reason, and it's to show the connection through all the storylines.
Right.
But yeah, and it was cute. Tate was hanging his head over the banister, watching from above, like a little puppy dog.
Yeah.
He's like,
"You'll have me back now, please."
It was cute,
It
and
was.
and I think even Chablis said something to Madison, and she was pretty much like, "Shut up."
Yeah. She's like, "I don't want to talk about it.
I don't wanna talk about it."
I want to be the ice cold bitch instead."
All right, let's talk about your favorite moments in that episode.
I mean, tearjerker, obviously.
Oh my God.
Like, I can't state that enough.
That was
That was great.
That was Chablis, right? Behold Chablis mentioned it as they were walking away. He said he called her. Are we talking about the tearjerkers? Like, no, a little moppy-headed one. She was talking about that. And then Constance, when she told him striking the deal, "I want you to abracadabra that fucking bitch out of here." I was like, oh. And then she asked Madison if she's ever carried a child before. She goes, "Of course not. Look at your body."
Oh yeah, she this little bony witch over here.
No, and I think at one point she called them witchy poos. That was
She
pretty
did.
cute.
She definitely did.
I thought that was pretty cute. Takeaways. I like how, I'm not sure if Behold is good at playing poker, because they both indicated to each other at one point, like, if I had to kill you to get the answers, I would do it. And he's like, the same goes for me.
Right.
So it's almost like they have a mutual respect because they have a job to do, and it's like a truce. That's what it basically is.
Certainly. Yeah, and I also liked at the very end, I think it was probably in one of the last scenes when those two were talking, and he was kind of saying to Madison, like, "Look, had I known this going in, we never would have like thrust him forward as a potential alpha or whatever.
Right.
This is not what we wanted.
Right.
We wanted the alpha, but we didn't want the Antichrist alpha." So I think he was just kind of reiterating that the witches and warlocks maybe have been at war for however long, but this is not the way we wanted this to play out at all.
Absolutely. I think, yeah. another funny moment for me. I like your reference as the Rose Garden of Death.
That's what she said. I at least wanted something of life to come from something of death.
Presented by Ortho.
She was trying. She really was trying. Her heart is buried under a lot of things, but she really tried to put her best foot forward.
Oh, Maura was so grateful when she I got the bag of bones from that she wanted to give Madison a hug.
Madison was just like,
Don't touch
get
me.
up, sweetie. Look, we're done with this.
Don't touch me. My favorite part, of course, was Pepper going full Bellatrix Lestrange and living her best life for Satan. She was just like,
yeah, she snapped a little bit. So out of those three, I could see why Meade was the one to care for Michael. I don't think she would have been great.
Right. I think the other one was a loose cannon. She was like the Sarah Jessica Parker character of Hocus Pocus.
She is so was. That is hilarious.
Come on.
Yeah, so that probably would have gone off the rails real quick.
Oh yeah. Well, he probably would have gotten tired of her and just incinerated her.
Yeah.
I think that's what would have happened. Any theories? I can't think of anything at the moment. I don't know. I just still think the whole androgyny thing might be something. I don't know.
It definitely could be.
I don't know. That's just kind of crossed my mind. A source of funding and money. Does Cordelia have something to do with the co-op?
Mm-hmm.
Has crossed my mind. All of this is happening, but I think we're going to get more backstory. The previews to come it's called Traitor, and there was quite some visuals in that. We see that Joan Collins comes back, but it looks like she comes back at a different role, a different character, like I said, with white hair, so maybe she did die and this is a different Joan Collins. And
We'll take it.
And I'm sure there'll be another Dynasty reference in there somewhere, because she's sitting side by side with Myrtle. I just can't wait to see what that dialogue is going to be like.
Melon balls. Fingers crossed for melon balls.
And it looks like it's still stuck in the past. So I think that these episodes to come, we got 4 more episodes to go.
Yep.
It looks like it's still going to be backstory, and maybe the last episode will be back where we started, and it'll be a showdown. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think a couple of previous seasons, I feel like, have kind of rushed through the ending.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe my only remaining fear about this season is we get the amazing backstories, which we're definitely enjoying, but we've been on pause for a long time with that timeline that we started
Exactly.
with.
I'm still...
So when we get there, is there going to be enough time? Because I feel like there's still a lot of story to tell there.
There's still a lot of story to tell.
But...
Oh, and there's a little voodoo reference in there in the previews coming where she goes up to Dinah and asks to speak to Papa Legba, and he comes back, and what the Witch Queen want now? So that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting that the voodoo component is there. It needed to be there, because it almost feels like that voodoo and witchcraft there's a balance there, and I liked when there was an alliance between Fiona and Marie Laveau. That was interesting that they kind of were a united front. But
you would think there would need to be something like that to take on Langdon at this point. So I think that it's probably them realizing, like, okay, we're strong, certainly, but if we bring in this voodoo as well, maybe that's going to be enough to overtake him.
Who knows? Who knows? And what is Mallory? Who is Mallory? Coachella Mallory.
Yeah, so again, still some things that are floating out there from the current timeline. I hope, and I'm hopeful that we're gonna have enough time to let it all play out, let it all unfold in a satisfying manner. But like I said, that's really my only concern that's still kind of hanging there.
I want more Mallory. I think people have been pointing out on social media that, hey, that deer turned back into a doe. So she wasn't just repairing it, she brought it back to its youth.
Right.
So I need to go back and take a look at that scene again, because it happened so quickly. So maybe she's part of healing, or maybe turning back time to who knows what's in store. But there's a lot happening, and I can't wait till next week. So I think that's.
Well, we also got a witch's death march in the preview. So maybe someone's gonna be burned at the stake.
I think
We
it's
got the
gonna
little
be
black
Ariel.
umbrella out. They're marching.
That's what I love.
So
that.
those scenes were so great.
I
in
saw the
Coven.
gas tank and that was 20 seconds of preview,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh.
Yeah. So
I
here's
think it's
hoping
gonna
for
be-
that.
I think it's gonna be Ariel. I think he's been pushing a lot of buttons. I think he took a bite off of more than he can chew and just usurps power, even though Langdon's not present, maybe. And I think it bites him in the ass. I don't know, but it looks like the death marches for him. That's my money. We'll know. We'll see in a couple of days.
Well, with the title traitor, that really opens the
suits
door
him.
for a lot of.
Well, he betrayed everybody. Remember,
Right,
he kinda-
we've already seen that he is to his own group.
He
So
partnered. He was in cahoots with Meade and Langdon to get him in that position, and
Right.
I think he's going to get what he deserves. Oh well. All right. Well, till next week, you guys. It was great catching up again, and we'll see you soon. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and peace out.
Bye.
It's all for you.